Your eyes do not deceive you. It is Out of Pocket. It's not Three from Deep. That's 3 times a week. If you watched our Thursday episode where I had the privilege to invite Jason Colenso on, we talked about this. We were like, hey, let's give you a vacation. And you know what? I'm going to get into the groove of doing Out of Pocket 2 times a week, with our normal days being on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern time. That's what we're going to be doing now. You'll have me on 3 p.m. Tuesday through Thursday with Out of Pocket on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast on Wednesdays. We were talking, Jason's been working hard. I mean, doing 3 shows a week for Boom Broadcasting for who knows how long. And we're like, hey, you deserve a vacation. We're going to give that to you. And we're going to bring Out of Pocket to you guys in his normal 12 p.m. time slot. And I had to keep the basketball theme. And we're going to go through my mock lottery. If you're not familiar with the NBA, that is the first 14 picks of the NBA draft. Now, we did see the draft order set this past Sunday, where the Washington Wizards claimed the first overall pick for the first time since 2010 and got John Wall. But we also wanted to give you guys the opportunity, because we are live. We are live. I'm talking in real time right now, and you guys have the opportunity to be a part of the conversation. I would love for that to be the case. So if you drop a comment, you have the opportunity to get a shout out live on air from yours truly as we go through the NBA draft lottery and my mock for that. So without further ado, let's talk some basketball, okay? So we did have the draft lottery, and I will go through what picks we have in order, starting with the Washington Wizards. Got the number 1 pick. The Utah Jazz finished that out with the number 2. And going in order, the Memphis Grizzlies got number 3. The Chicago Bulls got number 4. The LA Clippers got number 5. They're probably ecstatic, unlike the Indiana Pacers, because the Pacers obviously had to give that pick up to the LA Clippers. You have the Nets coming in at 6, the Sacramento Kings coming in at 7, the Atlanta Hawks, who are on the up and up, and we'll talk about that on this episode. They come in at number 8. We got the Dallas Mavericks at 9. We got the Milwaukee Bucks, who might be moving off Giannis Antetokounmpo, drafting at number 10. You got the Golden State Warriors with an aging core of Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green, who just re-signed Steve Kerr to a multi-year extension. They'll be picking at number 11. And then you got the Thunder taking a pick from the Clippers. Granted, they are picking at number 5. But the Oklahoma City Thunder, the defending champions, have a very real possibility of winning back-to-back titles and picking in the lottery once again because of Sam Presti making deals. They'll be picking at number 12. We got the Miami Heat, my Miami Heat, picking at number 13 in a very, very monumental offseason. And then we have the Charlotte Hornets. You know, I'm a hometown North Carolina boy. We got the Charlotte Hornets, the hometown team, finishing out the lottery. Now, there's a lot of different stuff when it comes to the NBA draft. We could have those picks 1 through 14. There can be trades. There can be deals done, and that could impact even as we go throughout the NBA draft. And Adam Silver, if you are wanting to fix the NBA draft, I know you're trying to fix tanking, but we could also fix where if a team drafts a player, that should be the deal. You shouldn't be able to trade them 5 minutes later. If you're going to try to trade your picks, then you need to do it after a few weeks. Like we need a little separation. I can't have so much celebration for this player and then find out 3 minutes later, oh, actually they're trading him to the Thunder for a 2043 first round pick. So that's what we're dealing with the NBA draft. This is one of the most exciting NBA drafts I've seen in quite some time, because there's a lot of times where you have one really great player. You know he's going to be number one overall. And then you have maybe like 3, 4 players who are like, okay, they're going to be top 5 picks. They're good enough. And then the rest as you get down is like, oh, I don't know about this guy. I don't know about that guy. Why we're doing a mock draft lottery for an Out of Pocket Live special this Saturday afternoon is how deep this class is. You have maybe a clear number one, maybe, but of the first 4 picks, you could take the best player in this draft. And it's like, pick your poison, right? And it's not even poison. It's like sweet cotton candy for these NBA teams. And they have the opportunity to move forward with a foundational franchise piece to what they want to succeed at. And of course, Adam Silver is going to crack down on tanking because, look, everybody sees how talented this class is as the college ranks gets better, as the international pool gets deeper. There are a lot of great prospects, especially at the top of the draft. So kudos to Adam Silver, because, yeah, we would definitely see a lot more tanking, just like people did with Philadelphia trusting the process. But this, I'm so excited for this episode because any of the 14 names that I bring up today, we can look back in 10 years and say, oh, they've had a long, good career. They were a multi-time All-NBA player, first team, second team, maybe third team. This class is deep, and this class could take us into the next era and the next generation of the NBA. We're getting rid of LeBron James. We're getting rid of Steph Curry. We're getting rid of Kevin Durant and James Harden. And not that any of these players are bad, because they're great. They're legends. They'll be future Hall of Famers. But we need a new generation. And I believe that any of the 14 names I bring up today on Out of Pocket with Michael Davis, any of these 14 teams can be a foundational franchise piece. And so, without further ado, I got to get into my mock draft. And so, we are going to start at number 1 with the Washington Wizards. And without further ado, we have AJ Dybantsa. Now, it took me forever to pronounce Victor Wembanyama's name semi-correct. So, who knows if I'll get there with AJ Dybantsa. And again, we are live and we are accepting comments, just like Aaron, the host of the Gridiron Address and the co-host of Hoops and Helmets. Why doesn't the NBA do draft night trades like the NFL? Very great question. I would much rather have them, before they make the selection, say, okay, like, we have the Miami Heat, the Charlotte Hornets, the Indiana Pacers trading all the way up into the first round. And then there's excitement. You actually have the player putting on the hat. But instead of Kobe Bryant wearing a Los Angeles Lakers hat, we have Kobe Bryant wearing a Charlotte Hornets hat. Now, there's 2 things wrong with that. 1, he should have been wearing a Lakers hat. But 2, the Hornets, you really messed that one up. I really wish the NBA would just do draft trades like the NFL. There's nothing wrong with, hey, this team traded up. Why are they trading up? That's the excitement about the NFL draft. And we did a live draft coverage on Boom Broadcasting. It was an incredible time. You guys can watch that on demand via the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel. It was incredible because when we saw, like, the Dallas Cowboys trade back with the Philadelphia Eagles, I was like, "What in the world?" There's more. There's more to that story. Um, and we don't get that with the NBA. We see, okay, the Wizards take AJ Dybantsa, like I'm saying in my mock draft, and you know, 3 minutes later, he might be a member of the Utah Jazz because he wants to play in Utah instead of Washington. And who would want to play in Washington? I mean, he was playing Utah just for proximity. That's where he played his senior year of high school. That's where he played his college at BYU. And Kobe didn't want to play in Charlotte. Can you blame him? Like, especially back then, he wanted to be a Laker. He wanted to be literally anywhere else but Charlotte. But again, he should have been wearing a Lakers hat. It's the Lakers should have made that deal. The only other thing I can think about with the NFL is the trade of Rivers and Eli Manning in that draft. And it was a very weird situation, but it would just mean so much joy for the players. We'd have better interviews post draft as soon as they're picked. It would be an incredible idea to do the NBA draft trades just like the NFL does on draft night. AJ Dybantsa going number 1 to the Washington Wizards. This is a pick that is kind of obvious. AJ Dybantsa is like the best player. I have questions about Darren Peterson. I have questions about Caleb Wilson. I have questions about Cameron Boozer as a Duke fan. I do not have questions about AJ Dybantsa because he's been the number 1 pick all along. What he's done to that BYU program is something that I don't know if Boozer could have done, or Wilson or Peterson. They all went to Blue Bloods. AJ went the alternative route, stayed in Utah, and played for BYU and brought this team to the March Madness tournament. And man, that run was cut short, but it wasn't because Dybantsa wasn't doing his job. I remember as soon as that game ended, I think I did an Out Pocket episode to where I was like, look at his stats. Dybantsa was the only reason they were competitive in the game. There's a lot of questions whether AJ would make a fuss about going to Washington instead of Utah. The Jazz obviously not winning the number 1 pick in the lottery. I'm sure Dybantsa would have been fine staying in Utah with the Jazz. But what Washington brings is, again, this is their first overall pick since 2010, where they drafted John Wall, a franchise piece, franchise player. Dybantsa would be that. I have no doubts. Would Dybantsa make a fuss about not going to Utah? I think he would be a professional. I think he would play for Washington and try to learn his new home. You know, this happens to athletes all the time where they don't go to their preferred destination. They make the most out of it. And Dybantsa can choose later on down the road whether he wants to re-sign with the Wizards or whether he wants to, move to a different team like Utah or any other team that's pursuing him based on how well he transitions to the NBA, which I think is going to be very easy. He's a game changer. I believe the only weakness in his game is maybe 3-point shooting, especially as the NBA goes into more of a 3-point shooting contest. It's not high on his list. He shot about a third of his threes successfully in his freshman year at BYU. But the way he can impact a game is above and beyond anything else we've ever seen. He is just he's a cornerstone piece. I've heard comparisons to Tracy McGrady, who had a very long and successful NBA career. I've even heard some comparisons to Scottie Pippen based on what he does defensively. And just the physical specimen that we have in AJ Dybantsa is just the guy you want to rally behind. Uh, he's going to be productive. He's going to score. Where we saw Cooper Flagg be the first ever rookie as a teenager to score 50 points in a game, Dybantsa might be the second. And I would not be surprised, especially with Washington. I mean, Washington was the team that gave up 83 points to Bam Adebayo. As great as that was for me as a Miami Heat fan, the Wizards were that team to give up all those to Bam Adebayo. Bringing AJ Dybantsa in, you brought him in. You traded for Trae Young. So Trae Young is a Wizard right now. Anthony Davis was traded. He's glass. Best of luck to you. But Davis is a good luck charm. You know, the Mavs got the number 1 pick when Davis was traded there. The Wizards got the number 1 pick. So the only reason Anthony Davis is valuable right now is he apparently comes with the number 1 overall pick. So honestly, Miami, if you want to make that deal, I would not be mad. Only if we get the number 1 pick next year. But I digress. AJ Dybantsa would help shape that Wizards culture because I don't think that Anthony Davis is durable enough to do that. I don't think Trae Young has the defensive prowess to do that. The Hawks got better when Trae Young was gone, but you have veterans like Young and Davis, and then you have AJ Dybantsa, a blue chip prospect. He could be an incredible piece, and it's the clear number 1. So with the clear number 1, we get murky at 2, 3, and 4. We have Caleb Wilson. We have Darren Peterson. We have Cameron Boozer. We have these 3 who could go interchangeably from 2, 3, and 4. When it says like, do the Wizards take anyone but AJ Dybantsa? I don't think any of those 3 should be taken over Dybantsa from BYU, especially if there's any chance that AJ doesn't make a fuss and will play for the Wizards or trade out because you know you're going to get a lot for Dybantsa. They're not going to straight up pick somebody else because Dybantsa doesn't want to play there. They're not. So between Boozer, between Wilson, between Peterson, where do these people fall in the next 3 picks? And I'm going to begin with somebody that hasn't been talked about a lot. At number 2, I got Caleb Wilson. You see a lot of mock drafts take Darren Peterson at number 2. I'm seeing a lot of those. I'm seeing a lot of Darren Peterson at number 2. The things that concern me about Darren Peterson is durability. I think he missed like 11 games for cramping. Okay, cool. He has a lot of untapped potential. But what I see from Caleb Wilson is I watched him as a Duke fan, and the UNC team was different when Caleb Wilson was on the floor versus when he wasn't, and he broke his hand and he had to miss the rest of the season. It was a completely different team for the North Carolina Tar Heels, and you want a player who changes the complexion of your team in a very positive way, and I believe that's Caleb Wilson. He's 6'10". He's 215 pounds, so he has a smaller frame. I've seen comparisons to Chris Bosh. I don't want to compare him to Chris Bosh because I think Caleb Wilson is actually going to be more of a point forward. We saw his ball handling skills. Sometimes I would forget he's 6'10", but he was actually 6'10", and he can play power forward. He's going to be a point forward because he's long, he's lean, and he can play as the guy who can distribute the ball, but also take it upon himself to score and create the outcomes. I think he is the total package. and he has been for a while. And I really wish he had played his college ball at Duke because it was hard playing against him. He was the one who was changing everything for UNC. And when you look at the Jazz, if they didn't get AJ Dybantsa, if you look at the Jazz, they kind of need that. There's been rumors about Lauri Markkanen being moved off. I think Caleb Wilson would be a much better fit than Lauri Markkanen in this team. But you could also play Caleb Wilson as a guard again in the point forward position and keep Markkanen on the floor and go based on length with this Utah Jazz team and just see where that strategy takes you. But if I was the Jazz, I would not take Darren Peterson. I would take Caleb Wilson. But at number 3, in that case, that leaves Cameron Boozer. I'm not taking Darren Peterson at number 3. And a lot of people are upset. I understand. I can already see, the comments potentially coming in that, oh, we didn't get Boozer in Chicago. I mean, his dad was, number 4. Like, the Bulls are very upset, and again, this is where one of those really weird trades could come in for the NBA draft. I would take Cameron Boozer over Darren Peterson, mentioning not only the stuff about Darren Peterson that I'm a little weary of, but with Cameron Boozer, you get something that not a lot of people do. You get the pedigree of him being the son of a Hall of Fame forward, a longtime NBA veteran in Carlos Boozer. You get somebody who had better stats than Zion Williamson and Cooper Flagg's freshman years at Duke University. And that team was pretty stacked last year. That team was really stacked last year for Duke. And Cameron Boozer showed that he can contribute to winning basketball, and he's very mature. For Memphis, especially in this situation, we just had the tragic loss of Brandon Clark this past week at age 29. Ja Morant has been in trouble with the law and a legal issue. Very talented. But for Memphis, you also traded away Desmond Bane last year for 4 first-round picks. And you need to make use of your draft capital, especially for Memphis, who this was their pick. You need to make use of this because Cameron Boozer can be your locker room leader, and he can contribute on the floor as well. There's concern about Cameron Boozer being undersized. He's 6'9" for a power forward. He doesn't really move like a small forward either. So when I'm talking about AJ Dybantsa, it can play any position on the floor. So can Caleb Wilson. The issue is Cameron Boozer can't. Cameron Boozer would most likely be a power forward and be most effective in that position. But also Jaren Jackson's gone. Like Jaren Jackson, one of the best defensive players in the NBA, is gone. He's not in Memphis anymore. So you bring in Cameron Boozer, who will stay at that power forward position and anchor your team as you rebuild and see if Ja Morant can be more mature. And Cameron Boozer is going to fill up the stat sheet with points, rebounds, be very reliable. Even if he's undersized, Al Horford was undersized. So I don't have any concerns. If Al Horford can last as long as he has playing his style, and same with Carlos Boozer, I have no doubts about Cameron Boozer being able to make that leap and helping Memphis build what they want to there. And so I did say a lot of stuff about Darren Peterson, but it's pretty obvious these are going to be your top 4 picks. And so I think Darren Peterson is the one I'm going to have at number 4, because there are concerns, and they're pretty glaring concerns. Durability, cramps, and that concerns me because the NBA is a 48-minute game. You're going to go to a bottom feeding team where you have to play a lot of minutes. And can Darren Peterson do that at a high level? He's very talented. He has so much untapped potential. He can score anywhere and everywhere. He shot almost 40% from three last year. He had 20 points per game, 4 rebounds. Darren Pearson, in terms of scoring, could be great. I've seen comparisons to Devin Booker, but I think I can buy in and rely on Devin Booker more than I can Darren Pearson. But Chicago has always had a guard problem. Can you use Darren Pearson in a way where he can match up well with Josh Giddey? Or are you going to move Josh Giddey to another team to fill out other spots of your roster? That's my question. But I believe Darren Pearson at 4, if he falls to Chicago, they're going to be very grateful about getting a top 4 pick, moving up in the draft, and they'll be completely content with Darren Peterson at number 4. And hey, Darren Pearson might prove me wrong. Again, any of these 14 teams that I mentioned could be drafting a foundational piece to their team. So at number 5, it gets interesting because as I looked at this draft and this big board, you could have a player as high as 5 and somebody else can have them as low as 14 or even potentially out of the draft lottery. I don't think I have this here, but at number 5, the Clippers are laughing because the Pacers do not have a high pick. For the Clippers, I got Darius Acuff. To me, I personally value Darius Acuff over Darren Peterson. That's me personally. I'm always going to trust a former Calipari guy, Acuff, working in tandem with John Calipari at Arkansas, and Acuff was fun to watch. I enjoyed watching him. I enjoyed watching Dybantsa, but I really enjoyed watching Acuff because he can take over games offensively. I know what people are going to say about measurables or tangibles, that he's not as athletic or explosive, but I trust him offensively. And why do I trust him offensively? John Calipari trusted him offensively because he's a bucket. He's a bucket. He can help distribute the basketball as well. I'm very happy about his offensive ceiling. There are concerns. Defensively, there are concerns. But especially when working through screens. I did see that come into play a few times for Arkansas, but he's unselfish. So while he can score in a very Damian Lillard-like way, he can also distribute. And are the Clippers going to keep Kawhi Leonard next year? If they don't keep Kawhi, we're going into a rebuild. And with that rebuild for the Clippers could be a very, very long time. They were aged, especially when they had James Harden, especially when they had Chris Paul. They moved off both those players this season. But you get Darius Acuff, who gives you the best of both worlds, can score like Harden and distribute like Paul. And I think the Clippers would be ecstatic to have Darius Acuff because, again, those first 4 picks are almost solidified, whether you like one over the other. But 5, this is where it gets interesting. Acuff, to me, is the answer for the LA Clippers at number 5. Coming in at number 6, I have Kingston Flemings. I have Flemings coming into Brooklyn from Houston, and he's not like when we talk about somebody who's not athletically gifted, in ways he is. He's quick, but his measurables at the combine definitely hurt him. He's 6'2.5" without shoes, a wingspan just an inch longer than that. It could be tough. But with Flemings, one thing you have to look at is he is quick. He can help pick up the pace for the Brooklyn Nets, but he can also defend. And I feel like the Nets have an issue, and the Nets don't have a lot of pride when it comes to this team. They failed with Pierce and Garnett. They failed with James Harden and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And so they're going to go into a younger route. Kingston Flemings could be the way to go. They did draft 2 rookie point guards last year, but they aren't as dynamic offensively as Kingston Flemings. And Flemings can defend. He plays with confidence. He can make good decisions. He averaged 5.2 assists per game as opposed to just 1.8 turnovers. For the college game, that's very incredible. He's gotten comparisons to De'Aaron Fox. Derrick Rose, I can see in a way. I like De'Aaron Fox a lot more. And I'm sure the Kings would have loved to take Kingston Flemings, but Flemings is going to be off the board before the Kings pick right at 7. But the only question I have about Flemings is, can his shooting translate to the NBA? That is the only concern I have. He can shoot from 3. He's got 38.7% from 3 last year. But he doesn't really take a lot of shots. So can his unconventional shooting style be good? But in terms of defense and distributing the ball, can elevate Brooklyn better than what they've been. So coming at number 7 are the Sacramento Kings. They're not getting Fleming, so I've compared to De'Aaron Fox, but they are getting Michael Brown. Mikael Brown. This, honestly, I don't know if many people know this. This was the alternative spelling to my name that my parents were going to use. So Brown from Louisville. I feel like Louisville could have done so much better if Brown was healthy for March Madness, and he has back issues. That's a concern. That is a concern, because if you're having back issues, it doesn't matter what, you could be out of the league in 3 years. So if there was a team who can afford that, it's the Kings, because hey, you have a great player like De'Aaron Fox, you're going to ship him out. You have great players, Sabonis, like, okay, like, cool. Halliburton, let's ship him out. Like the Kings, this is like The Rock did on his concert 20 years ago. The Kings are the butt of the joke, and rightfully so. But for Mikael Brown, consistency and durability is a concern. But when he's on, he's on. He can impact the game, and I think the big thing here is they can finally replace De'Aaron Fox, because if he is on, there are going to be flashes in games, especially home games, where Brown can drop 30 and make people forget that De'Aaron Fox is in the Western Conference Finals with the Spurs and potentially going to the NBA Finals with Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs. That's what he can do. This is a risky pick, but in terms of talent, it's there. I think talent-wise, it's there. He's gotten some interesting comps. I've read online where it's CJ McCollum, Darius Garland. So that tells me of itself he's not going to be a Damian Lillard or a Donovan Mitchell that those franchises preferred. But Brown can be a nice piece that you can build around. But I think the Kings are in a position where they're going to be drafting in the lottery for the next 2 to 3 years. And If things don't work out with Brown or he gets sour, they can trade him and get a precinct load if he stays healthy. But coming in at number 8 are the Atlanta Hawks. This is a team who can genuinely be in a position different than the rest of these teams. A lot of these teams are getting franchise cornerstone pieces, especially when we talk 1 through 5, 6 and 7, with the Nets and Kings are getting people they can build around, or maybe even excel and trade them for more draft picks later down the road if the franchises keep falling away. Later, we're going to talk about the Mavs, who had Cooper Flag last year. The Bucks are wanting to move off Giannis. The Warriors are getting a little too long in the tooth. The Thunder, I mean, they could basically win the NBA Finals again this year. The Miami Heat are trying to figure out what they want to do and what star they want to get. The Hornets are continuing to build on their young core. The Hawks are different, and the Hawks are different in this way. We saw them trade away Trae Young for basically nothing from Atlanta to Washington. They gave him away for basically nothing. And the Atlanta Hawks got better because they could show they have youth. They have Okongwu. They have Daniels. They have Risa Shea. The Atlanta Hawks can build on a young core. And so this pick above any of the picks from 6 to 14 is the most monumental, because this player is going to be expected to play right away and all the way and go hard and be the piece that helps this team move forward and get into the Eastern Conference playoffs, because they were on the brink when they moved off Trae Young. And so this is an opportunity for the Atlanta Hawks to actually better their playoff position with this draft pick. So it matters. It matters. And the pick I have for the Atlanta Hawks at number 8 is the guy from Illinois, Keaton Wagler. Illinois probably isn't as good without Keaton Wagler. And I'm saying some concerns, okay? First, the defense isn't as great, okay? The defense isn't as great for Wagler, but if you look at Atlanta, their defense is good. You can put your best defender, Dyson Daniels, on somebody. Risa Shea can defend. You're going to get defense from everybody else. You got Jalen Johnson. Like, their defense is non-concern in Atlanta. So you put in Keaton Wagler, which he's a perfect fit outside defense. But what he brings to the table is different than anyone else they have on that team. They just trade away Trae Young. They don't really have a guy who can distribute the basketball to Jalen Johnson and their scorers. So Keaton Wagler has a high IQ, probably one of the best IQs in this draft class, I would say. I would really, really put his IQ above a lot of other players. Keaton Wagler is also a guy who has been pushed as high as 5 or 6 in draft boards. Again, that concerns me a little bit, because he has had a surge since March Madness and since the Combine. But Keaton Wagler, almost 18 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, almost 40% shooting from 3. He's had an incredible rise up these draft boards. So that concerns me. But if you look more into his game, I think here's why. And there's a lot of comparisons to Tyrese Halliburton, who kind of came out of nowhere, was traded from the Kings to the Pacers and helped the Pacers to the NBA Finals last year, and was probably going to beat the Thunder if he doesn't blow his Achilles out in Game 7 after going 3 for 4 from 3 and having 9 points in that first quarter, in the opening minutes of the first quarter. But Wagler can drive, and he can dish it out. He's a crafty shot creator, and he is going to pass with excellent vision, anticipation. He elevated the Illinois team in March Madness. I think that we would have seen a different version of Illinois without Wagler. And again, he's not great defensively. There's some concerns about like his athleticism. But I when you get into the measurables and the intangibles and saying like, hey, he's a great college player, but can't translate to the NBA. If you are making everybody else around you better, you are translating to the NBA. I don't understand the logic of he doesn't look like this, or he's not this tall, or he doesn't have this wingspan. Because we've seen a lot of people with measurables and tangibles fall flat on their face. Keaton Wagler is not one of those guys, and I do believe that coming to a Hawks team where there's a lot of question marks. I mean, again, with Giannis moving away from Milwaukee, what star will Miami get? If Cleveland doesn't close it out tomorrow in Game 7, are they going to break up this Harden-Mitchell combo after less than a year? What's going to happen? There's a lot of moving parts. Can Halliburton come back from his injury with the Achilles, and has Indiana got any team left in that part? The rises of the Hornets, is that going to continue? The rise of the Magic, is that going to continue? The Hawks are in a position to draft a guy who they can help build around, maybe add a piece or two in free agency, and be a 4 seed in the East easily. Also, shout out to Alan watching us live on Boom Broadcasting. We appreciate you, Alan. Hope to see you tonight. I'll be commentating Square Circle Champions at Millers Creek Elementary School. I know Alan's been to several of those shows. I will be with Quick Hits host Shannon Smith, and Shannon's got his show coming up at 3 o'clock today, talking about the WNBA and Portland's big expansion team getting their first win off a buzzer beater shot. He's got an incredible show. I'm excited for you guys to watch, as he always does, and has a great time with it. But the Hawks have a transitional piece, Keaton Wagler. Coming in at number 9 are the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks obviously drafted Cooper Flagg. They got Kyrie Irving. Who knows how long he'll be there and be available and healthy and durable. So the Dallas Mavericks have an interesting situation where they kind of need to like add around Cooper Flagg so they don't waste his career like Cleveland did for LeBron's first 7 seasons in the NBA. So I'm giving them Braden Burries, the point guard from Arizona. I was doing some Sporkle quiz where you name every NBA player, the rosters, and I got Kyrie Irving, but I did not get Max Christie end of the year as the starting point guard, and that is because Kyrie is not available. And if you are going to put the entire team on Cooper Flagg's back, he's going to get burned out, and there's going to be more wear and tear on his body to where you can't have Cooper Flagg be elevated in a way. So Duke did great. Duke surrounded him with guys where Cooper could have the ball coming up the court as a point forward, but he didn't need it. And Braden Burries played for Arizona again. Really, really helpful in a March Madness run and throughout the regular season. You bring in Burries here. You don't have to immediately move away from Kyrie Irving. You can see how Burries translates to the NBA. You can see how he can learn from a guy like Kyrie. But he is a guy who you can pair with Cooper Flagg and say, okay, go win ball games. Because Braden Burries from Arizona, 6'5" point guard, he has immediate impact. And he's a go-to scorer. He was for Arizona in March. I believe his size can translate to the NBA. We talked about a few picks above him that, there's concerns about their frame and their body and their measurables. 6'5", 215 point guard who's on the brink of 21 years old can translate to the NBA. He's a pretty old freshman, by the way. Pretty old freshman. And he's going to be a scorer. So if you get 50 points from Cooper Flagg, you get 50 points from Cooper Flagg. But if there's a night where you need 30 from Flagg and 20 from Burries, maybe even 25, those nights can very much exist in Dallas, in Big D. I think this would be such a good pick. I've also seen this name thrown out here in a couple picks for Golden State, who are trying to find Steph Curry's replacement because Burry's averaging 16 points a game, almost 5 rebounds a game, 2.5 assists, 39% from 3. He can do good. He could do good. He was the guy who was the engine for Arizona, especially in Final Four and that run. So I would really like for Brandon Burries to join Cooper Flagg, and 2.5 assists are low. Can he grow into that? I think he can. I really think he can. But if not, you can still have Cooper Flagg as a point forward. But if you have Flagg as a point forward, you have somebody for him to pass the ball to. That's important. That's important. To where this isn't just Flagg and a bunch of nobodies and a bunch of scrubs, or an aging superstar who decides when he wants to show up to work, which is what we've seen from Kyrie Irving ever since he got next to James Harden. But as the Mavs get somebody to build with Cooper Flagg, the Milwaukee Bucks pick at number 10. And the Bucks are in a position where it's very, very possible they're without Giannis, the guy who brought them a championship a few years ago. I want to say 2021 against the Phoenix Suns. The same guy who brought them a championship, they're about to move off this guy who gets tickets and everything. And so there is a player where I'm like, the Milwaukee Bucks can start building something away from Giannis. And so you need somebody, I believe, who's going to play at the same position as Giannis, maybe same measurables, but Giannis is the Greek freak. You're not going to get that. So at number 10, I actually have Nate Ament from Tennessee coming. Now, there is questions whether Ament would be in the NBA draft still, or if he would return to Tennessee for his sophomore season. As far as I know, as of this live stream on Boom Broadcasting, as far as I know, he's still slated to be in the NBA draft. I mean, he averaged almost 17 points a game, over 6 rebounds, 2 assists. A third of his threes fell as a 6'10" power forward. So I got Nate Ament coming in to Milwaukee at number 10 in a very tough position because people are going to be mad, especially as they're showing up. And I think he stays in the draft. He's a projected lottery pick. I've seen him as low as 14 or 15. That's as low as I've seen him. Might be looking at the wrong draft classes, but I've seen a lot of movement around here. I don't think Mavs would take him. I think the Mavs need a point guard. And so Ament would be my pick here. If you're trying to build something away from your previous star, you want somebody with a high character. I think Nate checks that box. There's concerns about shooting, but he shot nearly 80% from free throws. So there is belief that he can actually, there's belief that he can actually improve his shooting and scoring. And I believe it's going to be expected of him in Milwaukee. As soon as they move off Giannis, they're not going to win. And I don't think they want to win right away. I think they do want to, figure out a way between Adam Silver's tanking methods to get players. And that's why they're wanting to trade Giannis potentially for guys who, they can build around, but also draft picks. That's what they want, is draft picks. I will say this: Nate Ament has been compared to Jonathan Isaac, the Orlando Magic forward, longtime Magic forward, and I love Isaac's game. He's long, and he can defend. And losing the Greek Freak, you lose a defender. I think that Nate Ament can step up and at least make games competitive, to show that, hey, I'm not going to let a team run over us. And for Milwaukee, who needs a piece who play the same position as Giannis, you need somebody who's going to be able to not make people forget about Giannis, but we got rid of Giannis. He wasn't happy, but at least we got this guy in that position, and he's working through and developing, and there's a high ceiling for Nate Ament. I don't think there would be talk of him coming out as a freshman in the NBA draft if there wasn't a very, very high ceiling. Because honestly, if Nate Ament stays in college, I could see him moving on up to a top 5 pick instead of a top 10. If he was to continue to build on some of the things that need to translate to the NBA. But Milwaukee getting him at 10, it's a wash year anyways. Just let him develop in the NBA. At 11, as the Milwaukee Bucks move on from Giannis potentially this offseason, the Warriors still have Draymond Green. They still have Steph Curry. They've moved off Klay Thompson, but they got even older with Jimmy Butler. The Golden State Warriors really need to bring people on who can help win right now. If you keep Butler and Draymond and Curry, they don't want to waste Curry's career. They don't want to just be like, yeah, we're going to be a 13 seed every year in the conference. So you need somebody who can contribute to winning right away, but also make you feel comfortable about moving off Butler and or Draymond. And that player is somebody I really want to fall to Miami. So it hurts for me to mock him here to Golden State, because Golden State did take Jimmy Butler away. But the Golden State Warriors, Yaxel Lindeborg from Michigan, the 6'10" power forward. If Lindeborg could be a super senior, I think he would have been a top 5 pick next year. I really loved watching him play basketball. I watched him play all the way to the championship game. Lindeborg is just a huge reason why Michigan had the year that it had this year. Oh my goodness. Very, very productive. Very productive. Lindeborg, 15 points, almost 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 37 from 3. The only thing I'm hearing about him is his age. And if you're telling me that you're going to look down upon a guy who's a little bit older, who will turn 24 in September, is that your only complaint? I will take that, because age is not a weakness for Yaxel. It's a strength, because he brings maturity, and he's going to walk into Golden State, something that James Wiseman couldn't do as a top 3 pick. Yaxel's going to walk into Golden State, already want to play basketball, winning basketball. He's going to learn from Curry. He's going to have Curry on the floor. He's going to have Jimmy Butler, who has a high motor, and Draymond Green is not really mature. But you have Yaxel Lindeborg, and you have Steve Kerr, who's going to push him to be his best. And yeah, age, he's a little older than, a 19-year-old coming into the NBA. Well, he's mature enough. He was super impactful in Michigan's run, and it it just helps immediately. He's ready to win now, and you can't say that about a lot of these players in this year's class. You can't. Yaxel is ready to win. So I get upset. I get really ticked when I hear people say he's too old. Man, I will take Yaxel any day. And you guys seeing Yaxel go to Golden State at 11, with, who knows like what Brooklyn or Sacramento will get in Flemings or Brown with high ceilings, but also high risk, high reward on those situations. Yaxel is a guy who could be a great NBA player for the next 15 years. And you get him at 11. I really want this guy to fall to Miami. I really want him to fall to Miami. But I don't think it's going to happen. And I'm going to be very upset that it doesn't happen. And Bucks fans, hey, you could have drafted Yaxel, and very well. I mean, Yaxel can easily go to Milwaukee. But I got Nate going to Milwaukee at 10. I got Yaxel going to Golden State at 11. And I mean, it's impressive what Yaxel can do. He's the complete package, and I just think he's going to contribute to winning basketball. Number 11 is Golden State, Yaxel Lindeborg. At 12, very different dynamic. The Thunder are potentially going to the NBA Finals. It's either them or San Antonio, and whoever wins that series should win the NBA Finals. Should. Very, very big emphasis on should. It'd be a bust if they lost to either Detroit or Cleveland or the Knicks. It would be very disappointing. So the Thunder aren't in a position where they need like win now players. They're kind of guard heavy. They have Chet Holmgren, which there were rumors about them moving off of him. As long as they're winning, I don't think they're going to mess up this recipe. So they need a guy who has a high ceiling but may need some development, and is a perfect place to develop in Oklahoma City at 12. And I got Kareem Lopez. Lopez is an international star. And we don't have a lot of these in this year's class. There was a string of drafts where we saw a lot of international prospects. I mean, fill up the lottery. And it's like, okay, are we transitioning away from college? I think the NIL deal has helped that. I think the NIL deal has helped the NBA draft have more college teams and college prospects rather than international. But I don't think that Kareem Lopez is a bad pick here at 12 for the Thunder. He's 6'8". He's a power forward. Kareem Lopez could be really good with the right development, playing against NBA players on a consistent basis. That is, he just turned 19. You don't need him to win now. So just have him learn behind different players. Do you keep Lou Dort? Do you keep Williams? Do you keep Joe? Do you keep Mitchell? There's so many guys that you have in Oklahoma City who are going to get paid here soon. You can't keep everybody. Hopefully not. They're doing some weird thing with the salary cap. But Kareem Lopez is a guy that you can just develop behind everybody, maybe put him in the G League, or maybe have him on the roster where it's a blowout. Hey, get the rookie out there, let him play against real NBA guys, and there's no pressure. I think that is the best thing, is this international guy, 19 years old, 6'8", 210. Let's get like a better, bigger frame on you with muscle, and no pressure. Just develop at your pace. Couple 2-3 years down the road, he'll be playing basketball, meaningful basketball for the Thunder. That's what you need. That's what you need, especially with the state of this roster being as deep as it is. You need to use these picks to build for that. So next is a team that's in a very different position than the Thunder. It's the Miami Heat, who have been playing purgatory. This is a year where they couldn't make it out of the play-in tournament, and instead of having Dallas luck or Atlanta luck with the NBA lottery, they did stick to number 13. It's a weird year. We got 83 points from Bam Adebayo as the highlight, but in addition, we were still trying to find our identity after Jimmy Butler in that trade to the Golden State Warriors. We signed Norman Powell. We expected Norman Powell to be a great addition. Tyler Hero, we expected him to make leaps after his first All-Star bid. And Hero played the least amount of games for Miami that he has in his entire career. We never saw Norman Powell and Tyler Hero healthy at the same time. And Bam seemed to, from that, 83-point game, he carried the team the best he could, but he's not the number one offensive option guy, despite that great night against the Washington Wizards, which I thoroughly enjoyed because I hate Washington in every sport. Bias aside, I hate Washington in every sport. And Philadelphia. Ugh. Miami's in a position where, do they keep this pick? Do they pick somebody that can be shipped to Milwaukee? What does Miami do? Or to even Cleveland to try to get Donovan Mitchell. So I don't know what Miami's going to do with this pick. I can only tell you what would be beneficial. And that's a guy that you can use as trade collateral, or you can keep and actually contribute to Heat culture. And so for the 13th pick, I got the Miami Heat taking Phylon Jr. from Alabama, a 6'4", 185 point guard, sophomore from Alabama. I think having a second year in college is great. He's been, I've heard comparisons to DeJounte Murray or Dennis Schroeder. I don't love those because Phylon, I really enjoyed watching his game as well in college. But yeah, breakout season this year for Bama. And again, I don't think he would have touched the first round last year. Second year, okay, he's a lottery pick. This obviously worked out. He's scrappy. He's competitive. 2 words Miami loves. Scrappy, competitive, sign him up. He's quick, especially with his first step. And he just has so much control over the basketball. I've noticed that with him. He shot 50% from the floor, 40% from 3, 80% from free throws, averaging 22 and 5. If Phylon dropped to Miami at 13 and Lindeborg was not on the board, I'd want them to take Phylon. Had 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio this past year. The only question that people are saying is he had a great season for Bama last year. He wasn't on people's radars freshman year. Same things with Keaton Wagler. Basically, where'd you come from? Are you streaky? Can you have ups and downs? It's can he translate to the NBA at his size? Especially as the rest of the league gets bigger and taller, like a Victor Wembanyama or a guy I'm going to bring up before the close of the show. Can he finish inside? I think he can. I think he's very competitive. One thing I do have concern about is maybe him forcing shots or turnovers, but I think coached by Eric Spoelstra, Bam Adebayo's leadership, I think those two things can be minimized at the level when he's surrounded by strong personalities like Bam Adebayo and Eric Spoelstra. Now, here's the thing with this is this could help Miami move on from Tyler Hero. It really could. You have Philon. If he can score like he should, averaging 22 points a game last year for Alabama in their playoff run, okay, like who's to say he can't, average 18 his rookie year with Miami? With that high octane and high paced offense, he could step in, average 18, 22 points easily. I've no doubt about that. So he could. I mean, Tyler Hero has been known as a bucket, but he's been unreliable with durability concerns. They could easily use him. Or they could use him as an incentive trade for another start. Let's say it is Giannis. Okay, well, Giannis and the Bucks are going towards a separation. The Bucks just draft Nate Ament, who would be taking over Giannis's position. Philon would be taking what Damian Lillard should have been. I'll be honest. Like, I compare Philon to Lillard more than I would Schroeder or DeJounte Murray. Philon and Ament could be the building pieces, and Philon will work through those developmental issues if he's put in place like Milwaukee, who's building. But he could be, I mean, Milwaukee's like, okay, like I got Ament, or even if they take Yaxel at 10 rather than Ament, they got Yaxel and LeBaron Philon. I would like that. I would like that. So maybe Miami can, trade away Hero and, get that 10th pick away from Milwaukee and not even take Giannis, like let's just get Yaxel and Philon on the Miami Heat culture, and I'm happy because we got building pieces there. I really love the potential of Philon in Miami, particularly. So here closes the live Out of Pocket special of the NBA mock draft lottery, picking 1 through 14 with in-depth analysis. If you guys have enjoyed this, just subscribe, just share it with a friend who is big into basketball like us. And we have a lot of content out for you. Again, Shannon is going to be talking about WNBA here at 3 before we go do commentary locally here at Squared Circle Champions, Millers Creek Elementary School at 7 o'clock tonight. We love sports. We have wrestling podcasts. We have basketball. We have football. We have baseball with Dugout Debrief from Chris DeLuca. We have all this stuff. And so you guys feel free to subscribe and enjoy all our content that's available on demand via the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel. And we're closing in hopefully on 700 subscribers here very soon. So if you are already subscribed, share it with like 2 friends. And then tell me in the comments who you shared it with, and we can give you a shout out before we go off air today. But the Charlotte Hornets surprised people with their breakout season. Like LaMelo Ball, I was like, you can easily trade him. You can build around Con Knipple. Is Brandon Miller going to step in and be the guy? Miles Bridges, can he be mature? They don't really have a lot of center depth. Well, they shocked everybody by doing what they did, almost making it out of the play-in tournament. Sean, what up? He also does It Stinks, a TV show review. We're not just sports, by the way. We like people having the avenue to talk about other passions. And then he does Wrestling of Destiny and did a great episode last week on the New Day and what they're doing, potentially going to AEW. WWE was dumb to release them. I also had WWE release video a week before when all the major releases happened, but Kofi and Xavier Woods granted their release from WWE, and there's videos on that on the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel. So the Charlotte Hornets actually seem fun. If you were at a home game like I was, Miami pulled that one out. I did not expect that. There's a lot of excitement about the Charlotte Hornets here. There's a lot of excitement. And Aaron Schneider is just taking a guess that it's going to be either Morris Johnson Jr. or Ade Mara Also, maybe butchering that name. Who knows? I'm not great with names. Mara, the 7'3" center from Michigan. Now, I said at the beginning of this show, I've seen people like really know what's at 1 through 4. 5 through 14 could be a mix of different things. I've seen mocks with people at 5 and then dropping all the way to 14 or even a little out of the lottery. And I've just seen just movement across the board when it comes to 5 through 14. One of these names, Aaron proposed for the Charlotte Hornets at 14, is going to move out of the lottery. But one of these guys, Aaron's onto something. One of these guys is going to be a Charlotte Hornet, according to myself, as we get into the NBA mock draft and we close out. Both of these guys are Michigan guys, which is probably why Aaron wanted to give them some credit. Morris Johnson, been compared to Daniel Gafford, being compared to Clint Capella, very high motor big. I could do very great for Charlotte. Morris Johnson, excellent rebounder, another long wingspan. He hasn't developed into a complete offensive player yet. Morris Johnson hasn't. But with Ball and Knipple and Bridges, like you don't really have to develop into a offensive juggernaut right away. So it could very well be Morris Johnson Jr. to the Charlotte Hornets, but instead I am going to take the 7'3" center, his teammate, Ade Mara. Charlotte again has LaMelo Ball, Con Knipple, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges. They need a dude in the center. Get the guy from Spain who played his college ball at Michigan. Get Ade Mara, and dude, you have a massive dude. I do want to note this because when I was hearing, I've seen him as low as 25, and I've seen him as high as 5. You are taking him off potential. You really are. You're taking Mara off potential. But it's great potential. It's great size. I do want to note that 7'3" body. But he is tied with Mark Williams. If you remember, Mark Williams was a former Charlotte Hornet pick, just didn't work out, shipped off to Phoenix, as the second longest standing reach in draft combine history. What? Okay, so if Mark Williams doesn't work out, the Charlotte Hornets obviously have a track record with maybe this guy would work. Worked for Michigan this past year. So I fully believe that Ade Mara could be a very big possibility at 7'3" for the Charlotte Hornets. Shot block specialist. 2.6 blocks per game this past year at Michigan. He's pretty coordinated for his size. He's an effective finisher. So if you are covering the perimeter with Ball and Knipple and Miller and Bridges, you got a guy inside who can finish at the rim. And in a league where we have like 7'4" Victor Wembanyama, and we're just getting taller and taller. The Charlotte Hornets have developed a 3-point shooting arc, and you get your guy in the center, and could be very, very scary. Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, one of the nation's best defenses in Michigan. Yeah, this is going to be great. Only problem I'm seeing is can struggle in transition. So if the pace is quick, I mean, if the pace is quick, the Charlotte Hornets might need to go to small ball. No pun intended with LaMelo Ball. But they may need to go small at some points. But when you are playing against a Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs, which you guys obviously want to get to that level where you're competing in the NBA Finals, and you'd probably be playing against Victor Wembanyama, you need a guy who's going to challenge Wembanyama down low. You need somebody who can defend Bam Adebayo for Miami, who just dropped 83. You need somebody who can defend Karl Anthony Towns for the Knicks. You need somebody who can defend Joel Embiid as long as he doesn't take a rest day. You need a guy like Ade Mara here at 14 for the Charlotte Hornets, and that would be incredible. But guys, what a mock draft, a live special. Usually Jason takes over this 12 o'clock time slot, but we gave him a vacation. He deserved it. But Outta Pocket will be returning to its normal schedule Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. And you have me on Wednesdays right in the middle with the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast at 3. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. Drop your mock lottery in the comments and let's see how it differs. I'm not going to call you out of pocket because I've seen everything across the board. So it's just going to depend on who's right, who's wrong, how this draft shakes up, how teams value one person over another. Do they want to use them as trade, capital, whatever the case may be. This has been an incredible Outta Pocket episode. Thank you guys so much for watching us live on Jason's time slot. And thank you guys for tuning in the comments. I kind of miss this. But Aaron bringing up a good point. Maybe Charlotte also gets Morez at 18. Yeah, you got to think about that, how the Hornets at 14 and 18 could get two dudes. I do like Diabate. Kalkbrenner, we'll see how he does and translates. And but yeah, if you paired Morez and Mara, I'm very scared of Charlotte moving forward. Very, very scared of Charlotte moving forward. And yeah, I could totally see them going one and then the other. And it's depend on whoever would be available at that point and who you think could drop to 18. Very, very great point, Aaron. Thank you, Aaron, for tuning in with us, as well as Sean and Alan for commenting while we are live. I have missed doing these live, so it was a very special opportunity I got to be with you live today on Boom Broadcasting. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you next time. Drop those mock lotteries here down below, and we'll see you back here for Outta Pocket on Tuesday.